Hey there, welcome to the Focus Podcast with Taralee. This is the place where we talk about real life, real relationships, and how to grow through it all. If you're looking for simple mindset shifts, better communication, and deeper connections, you're in the right spot. Let's dive in.
I have to tell you, I don't know if you know this, but I'm having my first child this year. Right?
Oh, yay!
Which is a big part of why I decided, Laura and I were traveling over Christmas, New Year's, and talked about like, what does this year hold for us? You know, when you get away, we were in Thailand, it's just like you have that perspective on life. And there's sort of like two big things that were like the life things going on. One was we're going to have a child. We decided, you know, like end of January, February, whenever her cycle hit, we were going to do the IVF transfer.
Yeah.
Have a child at the end of the year. Super excited about that. And definitely led me to think a lot about what am I doing to make their world better, right? I'm going to hand off a world to them. I'm going to go bye-bye. And then like, how is that better? And I wanted to share a lot of the things that I'd learned. And the other thing is I found out last year that I have cancer, which is being managed, and I have a great team. So, you know, I'm not going to die today on the podcast, but, you know, definitely makes you contemplate the shape of the road going forward, right? Might not be the shape that we thought. So I was like, okay, let me see what I can do to share stuff. And that's been a big part of my summer is I've been talking to podcast hosts because my audience in Sukha, they said podcasts are like their number one authentic way of learning things. It's not Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. They're like, most of those people are just like paid clowns trying to push their energy drinks and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so I tell you all this because I looked through the podcast hosts that they mentioned were all smaller ones, not like Joe Rogan's or stuff like that, where they put in the category of like entertainer, not really like authentic person. And it was interesting because, you know, you do that and then Apple or Spotify tells you, well, you know, if you like Andrew's podcast, you probably also like Taralee's, you know, podcast. They're both on mindfulness or on, you know, productivity or whatever. And I hit upon your episode where you talked with Taylor and spoke to me because it's the kind of stuff I've been thinking in my head. Like, what is it my son will say to me? We were having a son first. What is it my son will say to me when he's old enough to articulate, this is how I wanted you to treat me when I was little. Like, this is what you need to know about what it was like when I was young. And I really dug that episode.
Oh, awesome.
That was cool.
Yeah. That's my son. He's now 19 and you definitely, And I don't know if you know or not that my daughter in September was diagnosed with cancer. So she was
I
24
did
years old.
not know that. Oh, I knew you had a daughter. I did not know.
Yep. I have
How's she
two
doing?
daughters. So I have one that she just turned 25, the one that was diagnosed with cancer. And then I have a 21-year-old daughter. And then my son Tyler's our youngest. So she's doing well. She had a very rare lymphoma, like 1 in 2 million. Get it?
Wow.
And so so she's like, I feel special. So it was a battle for a while, and it's still like, I mean, I'm sure as you know, like the diagnosis, you know, doesn't even in remission, it doesn't quite end. We'll have 2 years of monitoring and stuff with her, but she was pretty intense for a little bit there, but she's considered in remission right now. But you know, just getting her hair back and stuff, that's kind of hard for a 24-year-old, now 25, but happened to lose all her hair and stuff. But she's getting it back and kind of pushing forward, ready to kind of get going a little bit again, and kind of shifted her goals for a little bit, but she's getting back to where hopefully she can continue seeing that. So we do talk a lot about the mindset and stuff of all that, because that is definitely changes and shifts, like you said. And then your new baby, that is, do you guys know, you said you have it's a son.
Yep, we did IVF. So I know we're having a son. And then our hope is to have, we have 3 female embryos that are euploid. So doing that maybe 2 years from now.
Wow, how exciting. That is awesome.
So
many fun things for you.
Pretty crazy.
Fun changes and not so fun stuff. Like I understand that whole side of it, because that definitely kind of shifts your perspective a little bit for a while, right? But
yes, there's some question marks and a lot of thinking.
Yes. Yep. Definitely.
A lot of thinking. Yeah.
Welcome to the Focus Podcast, where we talk about what it really takes to build strong relationships in life and in work and everywhere else. And our host today is Steven, or our host. Cliff, let's change that. You want to host it? Can I turn it over to you? Let's let
What are
you
you
host
doing
it.
later?
So I'm joined today by Steven Puri, who has such an interesting background. And I want to let you introduce yourself a little bit because there's so much and so many interesting things that I know our listeners are going to love. And so, but I want you to introduce yourself first. Do you mind?
Absolutely. And I don't mind, and absolutely I will. Probably at the highest level, what's interesting is I've worked as a senior executive on a couple motion picture lots. I've also raised about $21 million of venture capital and have run three companies, one successful exit and two failures. So it's kind of fun to have seen the game played, in both those fields. And what I do right now is I run a tech company that takes advantage of some of those lessons about how to be mindful, how to,
Mhm.
develop a healthy relationship with work and, achieve a flow state ideally.
Yes, I love that. So I've listened to some other podcasts that you've been on too, and I
Oh,
love how you
not so
talk about,
flattered.
I love it. Well, you just have some really interesting things, and I do want to talk a little bit about your Sukha company too,
Hmm?
which but tell me a little bit about the flow state. When people hear flow state, I don't because when I first heard that, I was like, okay, wait, I kind of have an idea of it, but
Right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's something where I think a lot of people that passing, like, I know I've heard that, but what exactly is that
Mhm.
thing? And let me tell you, when I first experienced it, I didn't even know the term. I
Mhm.
was going from Austin, which is where I live now, to San Francisco. And the next morning, I was going to meet with my team and show them like some designs, be like, hey, I was thinking we should build something like this. Right. So had some designs to do on the flight, got on the Alaska flight, Wi Fi was out. We took off and we landed like 10, 15 minutes later. And I was like, something awful. The engine fell off. They're not telling us we're landing in Dallas, right? And they're not telling us what's wrong. No, we were in San Francisco. I had lost complete track of time. Like over 2.5 hours had gone by. I don't know if the drink cart had come by. I had no conception of what was going on around me, but my designs were done. And I felt really good. I was like, this is a great illustration of this idea. And I had expected that I would get to SF and like grab something in the hotel lobby and like finish the designs of my room that night to try and scramble. And I was actually like, oh my God, I could go to dinner. Like I'm kind of done. That experience was magical because it was like this weird concentrated state that felt really comfortable and I felt good about myself. And I was sick of having days where at 6 o'clock I'd be like, oh, I'll have to get up early tomorrow and try and finish this before I do tomorrow's work. And that lie you tell yourself, and then tomorrow night you tell yourself the same lie and it dominoes through the
Yeah.
right. So not interested in that. I also procrastinate.
Hmm.
Totally open about that. So if I say I'm going to start at 9, sometimes at 9:15, I'm returning emails that don't really need to be emailed back. But I mean, just like taking care of like low priority stuff or scrolling just to be on top of the news. And I start at 9:30 or something. And it's just not the practices you have when you want to either feel better in your life. You're like, oh man, I'm crushing it. This is really great. Or feel in control
Hmm.
of your life. Like, hey man, it's 5 o'clock. I'm done. 6 o'clock is not even an issue. It's what do I want to do with this extra hour? Like that kind of feeling. And now, to bring that to flow states, like what was that thing I experienced and why am I so passionate about? We built a whole website to help people get into that, including myself. Um, there was a Hungarian American psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who had a very strong thesis. He's like, these high performers in very different disciplines talk about their concentrated states in very similar ways, whether they're athletes or artists or inventors. I want to figure out what it is they do and how they do it. So, like Prometheus, he wanted to go up, get fire from Mount Olympus, bring it down to the rest of us, right? And
Hmm.
at the end of his exploration, he wrote the book Flow. And it is from that book that we call it a flow state, where he said, after talking to all these artists and athletes, the best metaphor I can think of is you can get on the river and paddle and move forward of your own, energy. But if you align yourself with the current of the river, it magnifies the energy of what you put in, right? And you get
Yes.
further. And these people seem to be really good at going, hey, I'm going to get rid of any distractions, cross currents, whatever, and do this thing intensively. And the result is very powerful. And he
Hmm.
said they all have their own names for it. Michael Jordan famously said that when he's in the zone, it's only him and the ball.
Hmm.
That's his word for a flow state, right? And he's like, things
Yeah.
fall away. Just like, not that I'm like Michael
Hmm.
Jordan, but like when I was on the plane, I was like, I don't know if the flight attendant came by. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
not looking at the scoreboard or the stands. Like in those moments, it's me and the ball. And that's when I do
Yeah.
the stuff that people put in the highlight reel, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah. I
that,
love that.
so that's a flow state. And there are conditions precedent that help you get into it. There are things you notice when you're in it. And we can talk about
Hmm.
all those things because I love sharing this because I think the world would be better if more of us could access that and do things and be in control of our life.
Yeah. Well, that's like basically so where I get the Focus podcast, Focus was
Mm-hmm.
something my dad, he was a marriage and family therapist, and he would talk about one of his sayings that I've just kept with me. He passed in 2016, but
Mm-hmm.
is what you focus on expands. And that's kind of what
Yeah.
I base this on. And so Focus, each letter that I talk about like different things about our thoughts, how we create our reality, basically through our thoughts and feelings
Completely
and
agree
all
with
that.
dad. Go
So
dad.
yeah, right. And so I've kind of taken those letters in Focus and have created this Focus framework that I teach to my clients and stuff. And so when you're talking about like getting in that flow state, because you do when you're focused on something that grows, and where I talk about relationships and those kinds of things like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of is a little bit different. But I like how you know, just the productivity. And I want to pick your brain a little bit too, because
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about your app, it's called the Sukha, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Sukha means happiness. The
yes,
Sukha
I want
Company, the
to. I
happiness
want you to
company.
tell us
Yeah.
that story about how you came up with that name, because I've heard it somewhere else, but I want you to tell our listeners
Oh,
here
yeah. I'd be
because it's so
happy to.
interesting.
This is
Yeah.
for me is a very personal story and one that just, I hope, gives you a real insight into like, oh, that dude who was on Taralee podcast, I remember him, right? This speaks to something I care about very much, which is yoga, which is not only my physical practice, but also my spiritual sort of mental wellness practice, right? I'm practicing for over a decade. It's how I met Laura, my wife. She was the girl on the mat to my left. We chatted for a few months, went out on a date. We're having a child this year, right? So
Yeah.
definitely there's an element of this is really cool because when we got married a couple of years ago, we went to Bali, which is a great place to go when you do yoga. It's chill. The yoga barn's great. You bump into friends, from all over the world that do yoga and stuff, right? So we were going there. I said to Laura, I've got this working version of this flow state app and really need a real name for it. More than like flow state app for, distraction blocker, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Amazon is such a cool, Nike is such a cool name. Like they're not like shoe company, right?
Hmm.
But they say something. And she's like, I wish that for you. I hope, in this next 10 days when no one's bugging you, they know you're on your honeymoon. Maybe something bubbles up and that'd be really nice, right? In between doing yoga and eating and hanging out at the pool, whatever. So I said, maybe it will seed my unconscious if the first day, if you don't mind, let me just talk to 3 people who are like early members and just ask them, like, what's their favorite part of this? And maybe those seeds will grow over 10 days, right? She's like, go for it. I'm going to go to the pool. You, my friend, enjoy your Zooms, right?
Yeah.
So I did speak to 3 people and bounded it. I was like, I just want 10 minutes. Can I just ask you like 2 or 3 questions? Do you love the smart assistant that keeps you on track? Do you love the phone blocker? Do you love the music? Do you love the tap? What do you love, right? Third guy, I was wrapping up. I'm like, hey, it was like Taralee. I asked for 10 minutes. I want to be respectful. We're 8 minutes in. Thank you so much. And the guy stopped me and he said, you asked the wrong questions. I was like, okay, I'll take the bait. Like, what was the right question? And this guy's really nice. I see him. He's still a member. I see him in the group chat sometimes. And he's like, you should have asked me why I pay you. And I was like, it's 30 cents a day. I didn't think it was a big deal, but okay. So why do you pay me? He said, well, I find now that I have 2 kinds of days. At 3 o'clock, I am playing with my 2 and 4 year old. Or at 6 o'clock, I'm like, where did the day go?
Mhm.
And I realized the difference is when I started my day, did I hit play in your app? So I pay because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I was like, wow,
I,
okay. Yeah. You're right. I was not asking the right question. So I went to dinner with Laura. I was like, oh my God, I spoke to this dude who's more articulate than I am about what I do. Right.
yeah.
I said
Yeah.
this and she's like, oh, that's really good. So we're going to bed. And Laura, we were like brushing her teeth. And Laura, with her mouth full of toothpaste, said to me, you know how you were saying like you wanted the universe to talk to you and like help you find a cool name? You know, in yoga, we hear all these terms like prana, life force, and, dharma, your duty, and karma. That guy said to you is sukha. Like sukha, that feeling when you're in control of your life, like you're doing something, you can do it with ease. You're in your lane doing the thing you're meant to do. She's like, there's your name. And I pulled out my phone because we're going to bed. I looked up, is the Sukha company, the happiness company available? The domain was, I bought it and that was it. So that's why I call it the Sukha company, because ultimately what I want to provide is not, oh, just beautiful music. It's that app with beautiful music or the smart assistant that keeps you off your phone. What I want to provide is something for people to go, I feel happy. I feel in control. That's where we want to
I love it.
be.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. That is so great. My I have a relationship coaching business and it's called Peaceful Heart Journey. And that because
Nice.
that kind of just like that's what we want. That's what everybody is seeking, I think, a lot
Mm-hmm.
too, is, and when you talk about like giving more time back to parents and people, especially working from home, I work from home and
So do
my
I.
I have right now, my three young adult children are living with us because we moved from Colorado to South Carolina just a year ago. And then cancer things had hit our family and things like that. So it's much cheaper here than it was in Colorado for my kids
Mm-hmm.
to get out on their own. But right now I'm like,
But your
just
son
save
was
some
just
money.
in Colorado, right?
Yes, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
he goes back and forth a lot. He has friends there and stuff, but he's working right now to save money. He's wanting to do an aviation program for school. So
Oh, cool.
that's very expensive. So he's got to save a little bit more to be able to do
Right.
that. He's working hard. He's a hard worker. So, but
Good.
a lot of times their schedules and their work, they're all working full time. Even my daughter that's just gone through cancer treatments is back to working and stuff. And they're in and out here all day. And so I want to stop because when they come in, I want to talk to them, but then I need to figure out like a system too because I'm doing online college classes too. I'm getting my
Really? Your
degree
degree in
in
what?
marriage and family therapy too. So
Amazing. You
I've
have a very
been
busy family, very ambitious.
we are very, very busy. My husband is a full-time accountant for the Department of Energy, but then he also has a bookkeeping business on the side too. So
And a
we're
downhill skier. Okay, great.
yes, we're just very, very busy, but it's like keeping that focus and that being productive and stuff because I do find myself I'll sit down and think that I want to work on this and this and this, but then you kind of let things go or oh wait, I need to do this with work, but then I really need to be focusing on school and tell me a little bit about your how this could help with some of this like keeping me straight and keeping the listeners that have because I'm not the only one that has a lot going on. I know everybody does.
No, and let's talk about what your dad said because he's like spot on. Like
Hmm.
what you focus on grows, right? I'm
Hmm.
paraphrasing what he said.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I have a very strong thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? Is that going to die with you, inside you? Or
Yeah.
are you going to release it into the world, right? And that may be the next great American novel. It could
Hmm.
be a company, it could be a way of creating a center for youth, whatever it is. But you have that thing. And if, like your dad says, you focus on a thing, it will grow, expand beyond you, and outlive you, right?
Yeah.
There are incredible incentives if you're a great engineer or designer or behavioral psychologist to work for a company whose business model is steal everyone's life. Period. Full stop. Like if
Hmm.
you want to make generational wealth right now and you're an engineer, you go work for Mark or Evan or Elon or something. And the rewards for just saying, hey, I figured out a way for everyone in the world to spend one more second in our app, you will be
Yeah.
given hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that is really hard when the other side of the tug of war is the smartest people in the world incentivized to make massive amounts of money. And you're on one side pulling alone, going, but I really want to write my book, create my company,
Mhm.
build the youth center. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that to me is criminal, like capital C criminal, that the incentives
Mhm.
are that way. So, what is there to do? Easiest thing to do, be the guy or girl at 80 years old sitting on the sofa being like, yeah, I scrolled and double tapped my life away. It was really cool. I saw a lot of dancing monkey videos. It was really fun. I like double tap all the dancing monkey videos.
Right. That's,
Wow.
I
That's
know. Isn't that
absolutely
crazy?
what Meta, Facebook,
Hmm.
TikTok, Twitter, it's all they want. They don't want you to
Yeah.
actually do anything, but just please stay in our app and just give us your life because we're going to sell it to this advertiser and we will keep the money. Is
Hmm.
that cool with you? Can we have your life?
That's
And
crazy.
that to me is the biggest thing that I want to express when you ask me that question is the acknowledgement that when that rope is being pulled and you're like, I want to do something with my life, there are thousands of people on the other side making hundreds of millions of dollars pulling, trying to get you not to do it. Right. So
Hmm.
for the people who raise their hand, they're like, actually, I don't want to die with that thing inside me. That book will
Yeah.
get written, that company will be created. I'm going to create the youth center, right?
Hmm.
We're there for them. So before I tell you about exactly how everything works, let's just talk generally about flow states. What did Mihai write about? And there are so many things I will say today that may seem intelligent, and they are all from the great minds that have written about this before. The Cal Newports, the Clears, the Nears, the Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's, right? Okay, so let me just acknowledge,
Yeah.
like, it is the standing on the shoulders of giants thing here. It's not that I'm smart. It's that I just want to bring the smarts to everybody and make it like really affordable and really easy, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that he said is he said, you know what, there are these common elements of how you get into a flow state. He said, seems like whether I'm talking to like the Michael Jordans of the world, the Picassos or the inventors or the like, they have to believe it's meaningful. Like they generally don't get into flow states stapling papers, right? They have to have skills that apply. As I often joke, it's not Michael Jordan painting, right? That's just frustrating, right? It's not
Yeah.
Picasso throwing basketballs around, right? It has to be challenging. So
Mhm.
it's you know doing something where you actually have to be at your limit. Like it's Jordan in the playoffs. It's not him playing eighth graders, at high school or something or junior high school. Um, so when you look at these conditions to get into flow, there are some things about how can you block the distractions that the $1 trillion companies are sending your way? How do you shield yourself from that? Right.
Mhm.
And how do you then say, okay, I am going to be mindful and here's what I want to get done. So, you can time box, you can, time block and say, here's my time to do something. Let me be very specific now. Like these are some of the conditions that help you get into flow. When you have that moment, you say, you know what I'm going to do is I want to write my book.
Mhm.
You need to be intentional and set aside time to do that, right?
Mhm.
And generally, to get into a flow state, it takes 15 to 30 minutes to drop in, to get to that place where you block the world out and you're just in it and you're doing like awesome stuff. So you want to kind of budget an hour, 2 hours at the minimum to do it because if you do it for 30 minutes, you'll basically just get there. And then you're like, oh, I have to go make dinner, right?
Mhm.
So I'll give you an example from our app is there's a guy and he's public. His name is Roy King. I saw him nights and weekends, in Sukha working. His little bio I clicked on once, and he's an assistant vice principal in Missouri. Cool. This spring, he posted in the group chat because you can say what you're working on, right? If you want people to be like, oh, he posted, finish my dissertation.
Wow.
And people in the chat were like, oh, hey, man, because they don't know him. They're like, hey, man, I'm like, what are you working on? He's like, well, I've been nights and weekends when I'm not being a vice principal, whatever, assistant vice principal at the high school. I'm working on my PhD in education, in engineering.
Wow.
Cool. That's great. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I still have to defend it. Right. I've turned it in,
Yeah.
but it's still like that, going in front of the panel and the whole thing. So he's like, that happens like 2 weeks from Monday. So he's like, wait, can I tell you, it was super interesting. The number of people that weekend, 2 weeks later, that wait in the group chat. We're just like, hey, Roy, you got this. Good luck on Monday. Hey, man, we're pulling for you. Like, really supportive, nice stuff. And Monday, he didn't say anything. It was quiet. A couple people were like, hey, anyone spoken to Roy? Anyone heard anything? Like, how'd it go? Right. Tuesday morning, he posted, you may now call me Dr. King. And
Wow.
people went nuts.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how this works when it works. Is he said, you know what? I have a day job. This is kind of my side hustle. Many of us are, entrepreneurs doing things on the side while we have a
Mhm.
job that pays the bills, right? He's like, I could budget 90 minutes a night, and that's all I could do between having to, dinner and this, that. And so he's like, in those 90 minutes, I need to make the absolute best use of it. That's why I dropped into Sukha. The music and the blocking my phone and the websites really helped me make great use of that. And that's how I got here. That's how I finished my dissertation. And that is really how to use what we built. Is it's a simple website with a play button. You can
Mhm.
sign up in 20 seconds. And you need to have something that you want to do. Like if you try it for a minute, you're not going to understand. You're like, oh, it plays music. Well, that seems kind of dumb. To get into a flow state, it takes like 15 to 30 minutes. So you hit play. It'll ask you like, hey, what are you working on? So it can help you track.
Mhm.
The music plays. There's a little QR code. You can click it with your phone, put your phone down. If I pick up my phone while I'm working, the little voice, my smart assistant says, Steven, do you really need to be on your phone right now? Like, are you being intentional? And you know what? If I want to screw around, I can screw around, but it gives me that choice. It gives me that little nudge to go, who do you want to be? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to be the guy at 3 o'clock who's done, not the guy at 6 o'clock who's like, F my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can block websites. You can also, there's a Chrome extension you can install and say, here are the
Mhm.
websites that distract me. And it's interesting because I get to watch like what are the patterns. It used to be a lot of doom scrolling. Like a lot of people said,
Mhm.
oh, keep me off CNN or Fox News. Blah, blah. And then certain seasons, it's like, keep me off ESPN,
Yeah.
ESPN.com,
Yeah.
things like that. So you can do that just when you open one of those websites, you say, please help me with, Etsy.
See?
Your little poppers goes, hey, Taralee, like this seems like it's distracting you.
Yeah.
You get that 1 minute or 1 second to go,
Mhm.
who do I want to be? Do I want to be the done
Yeah.
at 3 or do I want to be the 6 o'clock cursing my life? And it does stuff like that. And there's, smart assistant helps you stuff. And there's, you get a
Yeah.
score, you get a live score. We can look back on your sessions and see like where did
Mhm.
your score go down. You can scroll over it and it tells you, oh, this is when you opened YouTube. You spent 20 minutes watching YouTube videos instead of doing whatever.
Yeah.
Your score goes up the more you lock your phone, the more time you work. Like your score goes up. So you can kind of like look at the curve and go, oh, you know what? It seems
Yeah.
like there's a pattern every time around 45 minutes. That's
Is
when I pick up my phone and I hit some wall where I want to like go scroll. And you can choose to keep doing that or you can learn. But again,
yeah.
it's up to you. Who do you want to be?
Well, I think it's just becoming intentional too. So recognizing those things, that's the whole point is okay, so this episode is like, I know my listeners are gonna love it, but I think it's for me. This this episode is for me because I am so like I've said, there's a lot going on in my life right now. And so
Right?
I need this because I have on one of my screens over here, I have usually like my home stuff, my school
Mm-hmm.
stuff, my whatever. And then I have on my other screen, in my mind, it's like, oh, this is how I keep organized. And I'm very much, I mean, I have a like old-fashioned hand planner here. Okay.
Oh, I love that.
Like I have that for my school stuff and it's each class is color coordinated too, because that's how my brain works. But I have to write down some of
Do you
those
have a
things.
P touch, by the way? Just any chance? Do you have a P touch? One of those label
No.
machines?
Oh,
Like,
yes, I do.
okay,
Right
okay.
here.
So you're gonna laugh. Laura, wife. Oh my God.
Yeah.
When you said I color code, I write like
Mhm.
my heart just fell in love with you. I do that with like
Yeah.
P touch labels, and Laura's like, "You're gonna P touch our child. You're gonna label like son." And I'm
Like,
like, "Yes, right on the forehead.
yeah.
It's gonna be like your
Yeah,
son."
it's not it's just a little dynamo label or thing
Totally
or
with
whatever,
you.
but I like to
Yeah.
label. I'm
Hashtag
very
organized. Okay,
I do, and
please
that's how my
continue.
brain.
Yeah, I
But
love that.
I need your app because I will be like working on school stuff, but then I still have my, work
Mhm.
going over here, or I'll be, in a business. call or whatever, and
Hmm.
not usually with a client. If I'm, with my own watching, my coach or something, my own coach, sometimes I've got something else going on over here, or I usually have 15 tabs open on both sides and whatever. And so I need, and then I am slowly working on a book too, where I
Oh,
have
what you
in
see?
planner, on Friday mornings, it's usually like, okay, I block off a little time for writing my book, that 99% of the time doesn't get done, or I spend like this much time and I don't quite know where to even start, or I start and I end up doing the same things over and over again, and I rewrite
Mhm.
that chapter so I need this assistant to
What do
tell
you
me.
think, knowing what you know, because obviously you're very self-aware in this regard, and we can be
Hmm.
self-aware, but it doesn't mean that we're also fixing. We're aware, but actually taking the steps. What would be the one thing that would change your daily habits?
Oh, because I am aware of it. I
Agree.
think
Awareness is a
just
first step, but there are more steps.
yes, I am aware of it. And so I need to, I know, like, I also talk a lot about how our thoughts create our feelings, and those
Mhm.
create our behaviors and ultimately our results. And
Yep.
so I think for me, I have to be careful of not like feeling guilty about it and shaming myself for it and like, oh, you did it again or you wasted time or whatever. Because I'm not one that like wastes time scrolling a lot. Like I really don't.
Okay, that's
And
not your vice.
that's not. And so I don't really watch a lot of TV anymore. I don't really like, to me that's like, okay, I have way too many other things to, but it's keeping me organized, not or because I am organized, keeping
Mhm.
me focused and doing the task that I put on my schedule and staying on that task until I either complete it or a certain amount of time, because some things I
Mhm.
do, I it doesn't ever end, like it's just there's a lot of things that, but I need to
Yes.
spend X amount of time. So keeping me into those and not off onto this or over here, or because I will get distracted at like, I'll be working on this project or whatever, and then, oh, wait, I need to do this really quick, or oh, that came in, or let me just answer this email really quick. And so I need to stay,
Wow, you and I are so similar in this regard.
yeah,
Yeah, I will
that,
tell you something you're going to laugh about because you're like, yeah, Steven, I know. So one of the things I noticed about myself, in addition to I procrastinate, I don't get going at the time I say I will, right?
hmm
And I can be doing returning emails, scrolling, whatever. The end of day thing, one of the other things is when I looked at my procrastination in the morning, it's like, why am I doing that? And when I thought about it, I dug down. It was overwhelm. There were
hmm
two things that overwhelmed me. One was there were so many things I had to do. It was almost like
hmm
paralysis about like, where do I start and the thing, right?
yes,
Or there was something on there that was so big, it's like, I can't make a dent in that. It'd be like having
hmm
write your book as like the thing to do. And you're
yes,
like, between now and like the 9 a.m. with Taralee, I'm not going to get
yeah,
write my book done. Right. So
yeah,
it's just like, why begin? Which sounds crazy, but it's just the way my brain works. So what we did is we have a smart assistant. And
hmm
when you put your tasks in, you can capture everything. Like if there are things I just want to get out of my head, like I need to remember to return that email or post that thing on LinkedIn or whatever, right? I can
yeah,
jot them all down there. But when I start my session, when I hit play, the music begins, my phone's locked, and everything gets hidden except those top three. Because I
okay,
used to, little ADD brain,
hmm
jump around, be like, oh, well, I could knock this thing out and go back to this. And the reality is, this is interesting. I learned this because I thought I was a multitasker, especially in my
hmm
film career. I was like, oh, I can do so many things at once. And the reality is, we're not multitaskers. What we do is we're monotaskers doing something.
hmm
And then we context switch. We go, okay, well, I'm going to stop for a moment, store in my mind where I was on this thing, remember, pull out of memory where I was on this other thing, work on it, and then store that, and then go back to the second, that thing. And in reality, you're monotasking and you're burning more mental energy, more brain energy, doing all that
yes,
context switching, as opposed to
yes,
I'm working on this, it's done. I'm working on this, it's done. And I've become much more rigid about that. And I'm telling you, the funny thing is with our membership, when we did this thing, we said, you know what? While you're working, we're going to hide the rest, right? You just
Yeah.
get to see the three things. You say, these are the most important things today, right? A bunch of the members were like up in arms, like, Steven, I need to see. I was like, just go with me. Just try this for a while. I know you hate me right now, but just do it. Right? 77% more likely they would finish all three things than when they could see the whole list, they would finish two.
Wow. Yeah.
The tasks are no different. The time of day is no different. The people are nothing changed other than you kind of look up, you go, oh, yeah, I can do those three as opposed to I'm going to jump around among these 17 things, right? And it's just,
Yeah.
it's a free mental trick of just, oh, cool. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I think I'm like, I can do this. This is doable.
Yeah. I love that. Because that is so me. My husband has the accountant brain. He
Right.
can start a task, finish a task. He can do that. And I am
Really
not. And I
powerful.
I was an office manager at an elementary school for several years. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to I mean, I was constantly interrupted. It was constant, I never had more than 2 seconds without being interrupted with something. And so I'm used to that bouncing around. But then sometimes at the end of the day, I find, and working from home and things, and a lot of times I have, evening calls and things. So my hours are kind of all over the place. And so some days I'm, 10 o'clock at night still working. And where other days, but then I can take a minute to go throw laundry in or whatever. But I try to not do that. But I need something like that where it shuts those things down because it's like I need to focus on schoolwork right now, or I need to focus on, you know, I don't know, marketing or whatever. Like there's just different things, right? Okay, I need to focus on answering emails because I've gotten behind. And so I
Right.
love that you have that in that.
So let me ask you this, what you talked about, which is so true. It is easy to have your day schedule you as
Hmm.
opposed to schedule your day. And when your day schedules you, you end up with all those like every hour and an hour and a half, I have something I've got to do. And then in between, I have like 9 minutes. So I'll quickly check my email and see if I have to do something or check my schedule. So your day ends up this fractured kind of mess where you're busy all day,
Hmm.
but you never had the time to actually do the thing where it's like, if I had a solid hour to do this, man, would that move my life forward, right?
Yes.
How could you do that? Is there a way in which you could say, you know what, this time is sacred. I'm just not going to accept Zoom meetings in this time, or I'm not going to, do whatever. How would you do that?
I do try to schedule focus time in my calendar and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but then sometimes I get distracted. But I like how you talk about where it closes those things and I just don't see them because if I see them, then I'm gonna want to do them or whatever. And I want to,
Squirrel.
get time back and like you talked about the story with your one of your
Yeah,
members of your
numbers.
thing,
Yeah.
right? That had time at later in the day to go and spend with your kids. And I want to get that back. So I love that your app will do this for families and people and I think that's awesome. I love it.
Given that Little Rascal is coming later this year, it's made it even more important to me to say when I do have those moments, I need to make really good use of them, or I'm not going to be doing what I'm capable of,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
because I know
I
it's going to
love
be
it.
even easier to be just like filling the day with random stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know, newborns do kind of sometimes they do change your schedule for sure. That's, they
I expect that.
yeah. Yep. Yep. But that's going to be your number one priority, I'm sure. So that is
Yeah,
awesome.
it's weird,
Do you
adorable.
have any other fun stories you want to share with us about your background and experience? And
Yeah,
I know you
sure.
have
Actually,
a
there's
ton of
some
fun.
this in the category of I believe that we have something great. Like ultimately, the way in which we relate to each other is through story, right? Because you want to understand there's someone who had something great to do. And by great, I don't mean it had to be huge, but it had to be for them important, right?
Hmm.
So the way in which we teach our children, we teach each other about the world is generally through story.
Hmm.
Why movies, why myths are so popular because they express something true about life, right? Here's someone who had something important to do. They were opposed by a huge force, but ultimately they overcame it and it's a success story, or they fell victim to their character flaw and it's a tragedy, and we don't often see those because they're not as commercially viable, but we've read those books and we've seen some of the older movies where you got to do that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And what is interesting, this is probably a story that you would enjoy is, so, I spent over 15 years developing films.
Hmm.
It is a very specific art form. It's a commercial art form.
Yeah.
To get something made that costs tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, you don't just make it on a whim, right? You have to think about it. You have to make sure, you believe you know what you're doing. So there's a film that I did not work on. So this is not me being like, hey, look how this great movie I made, right? This film I did not work on, but as someone who developed so many, summer movies, like big action kind of movies where heroes have to like get a sword of destiny to kill the dragon of, thing, or, need to like defuse the red LED timer before it goes to zero and, right? So
Yeah.
there is one movie that stands out that spawned billions of dollars of box office, of amusement park rides, of spin-offs, all sorts of stuff, billions of dollars. And it is unique in my experience in that it is so deeply rooted in character that it fails as an action movie. And yet no one views it that way. And I'll tell you what it is. The Indiana Jones series, right? The
Hmm.
last couple are awful, right? But it was all spawned by this one movie that Stephen George, made, and Larry and stuff. And what is interesting about it is, as someone who's developed a lot of summer movies, there's a thing you have to do. In the third act, Taralee is going to kill the dragon with the bow of destiny, right? So in the first act, we have to see Taralee at the shooting range, at the archery range, with her best friend as they're doing this, because we established that Taralee is really great at shooting bows. So in the third act, the audience goes, well, of course she could shoot the bow and kill the dragon, right? It's just what you do,
Yeah.
right? So what's interesting about Raiders, and I don't know, maybe someone will eventually point out to me that it does not do this, is in those kind of big action movies, in the third act for Chris Hemsworth, Bruce Willis, whomever, to run and jump and kick and do the thing they're great at doing. He's a sharpshooter, and Matt Damon or whoever, Marky Mark shot the thing from 18 miles away and killed, right? In order for them to do that, you show that early on. What's interesting is in Raiders of the Lost Ark, which spawned this entire multi-billion-dollar franchise, you meet Indiana Jones, and he's kind of a Tomb Raider, maybe a little gray area morally of like kind of stealing artifacts, but maybe there are worse people stealing them, and how's it work on that?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. I'm going to these sacred temples and stealing stuff. And the government comes to his college, right? And they're
Hmm.
like, yeah, we got this question. Hitler's like going after this arc thing. We don't really understand like what's the whole deal. And he has to explain to them what the movie's about. He goes,
Hmm.
okay, so here's the deal. If you believe all this stuff, the 10 Commandments and the tablets, and they put them in this chest, and I don't know, all this hokey stuff where the army that carries this always wins, and whatever, believe that, right? Too super dismissive, skeptical. They hire him. You got to go get this thing. He's like, okay, fine. Goes off, meets the ex-girlfriend, right? Marion.
Hmm.
She's like, you know, pardon, my language, but it's just like, you asshole. Like, you were my father's partner. You broke my heart. You didn't love me. You just used me. Like, my whole life has been miserable because, the whole thing. They go through the movie, figure things out, right? The climax of the movie, when he should be jumping, shooting, kicking, firing the thing, defusing the bomb, da, da, da. The climax of the movie, the hero is absolutely immobilized. He can't move. He is tied
Hmm.
to a stake. He watches the end of the movie. Raiders is the only action movie where if the hero had not been born, it would still end the same way. He has no effect on the plot. If he didn't exist, the movie would still end that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it works, and
And his eyes were closed, right?
it spawned billions of dollars of box office because the character story was so powerful, because he does one thing. He says 4 words: Marion, close your eyes. And with those 4 words, he tells you, Yeah, I do believe in God, and God's coming and it's going to be bad. Two, I love you. I'm going to save you. And it's incredibly emotionally satisfying that that pays off because you deeply connect to this
Hmm.
is a guy who does believe in God and he is in love with her.
Yeah.
And you never notice that he is useless in terms of the plot of the movie. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what I think is an amazing sleight of hand
Hmm.
from writers who could say, it is absolutely about what you believe in, what you stand for. It's not about, whether you untied yourself from the stake and ran up there and smashed all this stuff. No, it's not about that.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so true about people. It's like the feeling of seeing someone who's actually like going and revealing himself, going, this is what I believe. And this is where I'm putting my actions where my mouth is. Like, I
Hmm.
want this thing to exist in the world. That's powerful. And I personally want to support the people that are doing that. I'm sad. I'm sorry for the people that will end up the old guy or girl on the sofa. I could have been somebody. I could have been a contender,
Hmm.
but hey, man, I posted a lot on Facebook. I watch a lot of TikTok. God, what a waste of your life. But
Yeah.
those few people who are like, man, I would love the tools to like do something.
Hmm.
That's inspiring. And maybe they inspire someone else to do something with their life. So that is, I know you asked for an interesting story, but that
I
is a
love
story of a
it.
film that I did not work on that I think is extremely interesting for that reason and why it inspires me to give people a way to be like, I absolutely passionately believe this and I'm going to do something with my life about it, you know?
I love it. I love it. That is so great. I love all of your history, the things that you've
It's been
done. I
fun,
love
right?
that you're putting out into the world now, and you are definitely creating an awesome legacy for your new baby to come, and I think it's awesome. So I am so glad and grateful that you were here with us today and how much you've shared. Um, Tell us, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
obviously link them in the show notes and stuff, but tell us where
Mm-hmm.
people can find this. Tell us anything more you want to
Oh,
let the
thank
listeners
you.
know.
That's very generous. If there's anyone who has a question about productivity, mindfulness, focus, things like that, I am super open. It doesn't have to be at all about even what I do for a living, but it can just be like, hey man, what's a good thing for me to read?
Hmm.
Drop me an email, Steven at thesukha.co, the Sukha Company, TheSukha.co. I reply to all my emails in 24 hours if I'm not sick or traveling. It will not be a long email, but if you're like, oh, I want to learn more about this Cal Newport guy I heard about, I'll send you a blog post that, maybe is a good entree to learning about Cal Newport, or send you a link to his book, or who's that Hungarian guy? Happy to answer questions about that. Like that is what I do now is I get to share, here is information. If you want to do something with your life, here's some stuff to know, right? If anyone wants to try the Sukha, the website, it's at thesukha.co, the Sukha Company. It's free for 7 days, no credit card. Try it. Try it a few days in a row. Like, give yourself, like we talked about, give yourself an hour and say,
Yeah.
here's something I want to do, and see how you feel at the end of an hour. It may be different. And I'd love to hear, drop in the group chat and be like, this didn't work for me. Tell me, what you didn't like, or I love this. Tell me what you did. Um, easiest way to find me. I'm in there every day.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for
And thank
having
you
me.
for
This is
being
super fun.
here.
Glad your daughter's on a good journey. All your kids, and yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all your knowledge and all that you share with us. So I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me today on the Focus Podcast. If something stood out or helped you in some way, feel free to share it or leave a quick review. It means a lot. Keep showing up, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next episode.